Hi guys, welcome to Show Your Mix and welcome to HOFA-College. I'm Daniel and this is Steffen. We're both tutors and audio engineers with HOFA-College, and today we're here to hear your mixes. Steffen, do you want to explain?
Yeah, exactly. If you're new here, Show Your Mix is our kind of regular format where we listen to your mixes, we evaluate them, and give you some, I hope, valuable feedback. So if you want to join and want us to listen to your mixes, send us a mail to showyourmix at showyourmix@hofa.de. You can see it right here. And please send us a link with an MP3 file, something like WeTransfer, Dropbox. You can use high-resolution MP3 or a WAV file. Just please don't send us any streaming links because we need something that we can put into our DAW. And yeah, so we already have some mixes right here, which were sent to us prior. And I'll just say we just start out with something because I don't speak the language. It is Polish, but it's more of a traditional folk style, it says in the info. And I'm sorry if I don't even try to pronounce it. I really don't want to mess this up. I just want to listen to it and hope to give you some valuable feedback. So, should we start?
Yeah, we can totally start.
Jesień trwa, za oknem mgła, myśli szare rosną ponad miarę. Serce me pogody chce, trochę innej, ciepłej, nie zimnej. Topię się złapcie mnie z tej otchłani myśli szarej. Czuję tną z tobą swą coraz
All right, that's our first song for today,
Yeah.
and I'd say, do you want to start or should I?
You can start.
Okay. Yeah, have to admit I'm not an expert for this genre, but it actually sounds pretty well thought in terms of arrangement. You have a really nice dynamic in the song itself. You have the highlights, then you have the more soothing and low energy parts. So that works pretty well. Also, really liked how you implemented the drums actually, because in a song like this, I don't have the feeling that they have to be as upfront as in, let's say, more contemporary genres like, I don't know, rock music or something like that. That being said, also I think the organic sound of the snare I really liked. It was rather dull or muffled sounding, but it fits the song quite well. On the other hand, I think that the crash cymbals, they sounded slightly, just a little bit resonant and a little bit spiky at some points, and I think they have a rather long sustain, and therefore they mask other elements, such as the vocals, for example. So I don't know how you recorded or how you mixed it, but usually cymbals are something that don't need really that much compression or something like this, because you want to leave a rather natural sustain and wave shape for that. And usually, if you compress cymbals, especially with organic real drums, pretty hard to, I don't know, decrease the dynamic range between if you have a spiky snare or something like this. But usually this leads to a long and unnatural sustain, which, as I already said, overlaps with other elements. So, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I also really liked the arrangement. I like that type of genre in general. It reminded me a bit of like some contemporary folk music, like Black Country New Road. But I've also wrote some things down. Regarding the vocals, I think in the beginning there was a lot of fizz around like 10 kilohertz, like a lot of high end crisp, which I think might be up to taste, but for me it was a bit much air in there. And also as soon as the first switch happens, it feels like the vocals get a bit drowned out by the rest of the mix.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they can quite get through. And I also wrote that down with the cymbals and rights. They're very prominent. Maybe a bit too prominent for my taste, but all in all,
it's a
great
good
job.
production. I mean, just was something I want to add regarding the vocals, because we have a really nice arrangement with choirs and additional vocal stuff, and also when the strings come in, this is they are also often occupying this high frequency range around 10K if we want them really airy, for example. On the other hand, I think that the vocals could be a little bit less resonant in the lower mids, around 400 hertz, I guess, because there's also gathering a lot of energy also coming from the other elements, because this is where the fundamental range of many instruments, be it the strings or also not the piano, especially because the piano is basically full range instrument, but there are many of the notes are also located there. So I think you could just cut this frequency range a bit more in the vocals. I mean, I get that you go for a more warm vocal sound for a genre like this, but still you have to make some space for other elements, and then it would make more sense to shift the energy to the upper frequencies for the vocals, for example. Also, I guess that the arrangement or the mix itself could use a bit more width, actually. So panning the choirs a little bit more to keep the center of the stereo field a bit more focused on the lead vocals. This could help, but also don't overdo it because we don't want any phase issues or cancellation problems or something like that. But this would also be something I would lean into at this point. So something else I want to say? No, I wrote down that the sibilance was actually, but this kind of correlates with what you said about the 10K stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the analyzer here, we have this little. It decreases rather rapidly around 4K, and then it goes down quite a bit. But this is not quite the case with the peak curve, and the difference is not that big, and this is usually a sign that your sibilance is quite just a little harsh, I'd say.
Yeah.
This is also something you could get rid of with using a bit more de-essing, or also going a bit more easier on the 10K range. Yeah. So that's it for this song. You have something to add?
I also wanted to say that I really liked the way you played with ambience and reverb in those transitions, especially in the outro of the song.
Absolutely.
I think there were some footsteps mixed in as well. That was really great arrangement wise. Yeah.
Absolutely, the arrangement is really what carries this song. It's pretty well thought out. So let's end this on a positive note. And just if you have any questions or suggestions, just feel free to write them down in the chat. And of course, if you're new watching, just got in, feel free to send us your mixes to showyourmix@hofa.de, and we'll check them out. As we do with our next participant. This is a song called When Duty Calls for a Hero. And it seems to be more of an orchestral kind of thing. So let's get rid of that. Get this into the analyzer. And give it a shot. All right. When duty calls for a hero. Seems like it was inspired by a well-known, what's the word? Game ego shooter. You know what I mean. So it sounds like it could be in a trailer for the newest Call of Duty. I guess it's nice to see that you're watching actually. So you already said it yourself, a lot of stereo width. This is basically the first thing what pops up when you look at the mix.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. It's just it's okay. It's fine. We're all here to learn,
Yeah.
so no need to apologize.
absolutely not. This is
no.
we are not trying to smash anyone or just this is basically like we said this is not us saying that this is absolutely horrible. This is just us providing some feedback, and of course stereo width is also not only an interesting topic from a musical point of view, but also from a technical point of view, because you always have to have in mind on which systems or on which kind of loudspeakers your music is played. And even though I'd say most of the common loudspeakers today and systems on which you can listen to music are capable of producing a nice and functional stereo image. But there are also, let's say, some cheaper laptop speakers or cheap headphones, old headphone, Bluetooth stuff, and which are only capable of giving you a mono signal. And therefore, we demonstrated, I can do it again. Let's go to the loud part here. And let's listen to it in stereo for a while. And now we switch to mono. So what happens is we, let's say we eliminated the side signal. We have only the mono signal, and since there is not that much there, the impression is a little bit quieter. Elements like the strings that are pretty wide. I mean, they have to a certain point, but they could be a little more narrow, and you could use if you're working with. Basically, every DAW has some sort of analytic tools. I mean, of course, we are using our trusty HOFA IQ analyzer, and you can see this little thingy right down here, which is our correlation meter, and you can also switch to the goniometer, and there you can see how your mix behaves in the stereo field. And the main goal, I'd say, is to keep it out of the red. So let's say if we flip the thing by 180 degrees, you can have a wide stereo image. That's pretty normal. Let's go back to the mix we reviewed before that. This is more in the has a good phase correlation. You can also see this in the correlator right here. I mean, as we already said before, some elements were a bit narrow, which also is displayed right here. But we are not in the red, and we have not most of the energy in the side signal. You can also see it right here. We have the in the analyzer, we have the side signal for review at the moment. If we switch to the mid signal, the curve is a little quieter in general, which also kind of is an indication that there is too much energy in the side signal. So this is also many presets or many sample libraries come with a rather phasey and wide impression beforehand, and you could use your tools in the DAW to narrow it down a bit. I mean, there are, I don't know, you could start with using, what is it called in Ableton? In Imager, yes, thank you.
Yeah. There's also, I think, from Ozone, a free Imager,
Yes,
which you
yes.
can use, yes, which is
Yes.
very good.
Yes, they work pretty good. And if you're a student at HOFA-College, you could also use our
Nice.
the HOFA for you meter, fader, and MS pen, which
Yeah.
can increase or decrease the stereo width of a signal. Some DAWs have it also implemented. For example, Studio One, you can switch from pen mode balance to binaural, and then you can play with the width right here.
Yeah.
But this is something I would wouldn't do with the whole mix. If you're done, just get the signals right to begin with.
Yeah.
So you get. I mean, as I said, wide mixes are common, and wide mixes are what most of us actually desire. But don't overlook the technical part. So, I mean, sorry, I'm talking and talking, and so
no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no. Apart from that, I don't have really any other criticism. I think it was functionally and from the arrangement a very nice song, very cool, very cinematic. I liked the drums, which sounded like gunshots, which added even more drama to the composition. I think you did a really great job also regarding the choice of when to put in the strings, when to take them out, when to put in the drums. All of that stuff really kept the tension up, and I think you're on a great path there. Yeah.
Absolutely, and also apart from the width, you wrote that it's badly mixed. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the case, because frequency-wise, this works pretty good. You have clear fundamentals in the drums which are very punchy. If they would be a bit narrow, they would sound more focused, but they work. Also, the strings sound pretty good. The woodwinds also. So yeah, clear highlights, well-structured arrangements. So from that point of view, this is pretty good. So just, I mean, the elephant in the room is basically the stereo width, and this is. If we can narrow down, pun intended, the problem like this. You know where to look for. So yeah. That was a lot. I'm sorry, but I'd say let's continue and have a look what we have next. We have a song called Redemption, and we have some info. It seems to be more of an 80s rock type thing, and that who sent it to us had a little bit of trouble of fitting the organ into the mix. So let's listen for the organ. Alrighty. So, where do we start? I mean, it's basically what we were told in the intro. This is an 80s rock song, and it's basically just fits all the common tropes of this genre. And it's a well-written song, of course, catchy. The guitars work pretty well, and well played, well performed. So, yeah, from this point of view, great song. So, you have something you want to point out?
Yeah, I think the same thing about the song in general. Like the composition is very classical 80s rock. I also like the vocals, the vocal sound especially, very rough, very upfront. I like that. Just I think it's a bit. I mean, it says they're rough one, so I think it might not be the final version yet, but it's a bit harshly compressed. I think it isn't my genre. I have to admit, but to me it sounds a bit too roughly compressed.
Do you mean it's not compressed enough with rough, or too much?
Too much.
Okay. Because then I'd say yeah, kind of, because especially with the limiting. I mean, this version is obviously limited, even though you left quite a lot of headroom here with -4 dBFS. Something you would hear that quite well is if you listen to the snare, and especially the transient of the snare, because it sounds a little bit diminished, I'd say, because there is a little bit. We have a nice sustain in the snare, but the initial hit kind of gets eaten by the limiter a little bit. I mean, if we add it up, we're roughly around -7 LUFS. If we compensate with the headroom and the value the analyzer gives us.
It's very loud.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually...
Of course,
this is
you
what
want it to be very loud, but...
not at all cost, because especially with today, most people listen to music on Spotify, and then you can use loudness more as a musical element or something, a creative element, instead of... getting your mix to sound as loud as possible, because you're in direct comparison to something else on a compilation or something like that. I mean, people still master their mixes quite loud. For example, the new Linkin Park stuff is sometimes around -6, which is really, really loud, and it still kind of works. So, but just keep in mind, if it benefits you that you just go for 1 dB less in loudness, and you maintain the initial transients of your drums, which in overall then benefits the sound, you can go for it, because -8 is still more than enough for rock music. So,
I think
someone wrote, I was also experimenting with clipping. Yes, of course, clipping is also a nice way of getting your mixes as loud as possible, and but you can also run into the same issues as limiter, but let's say same but different, because if you're using a limiter, you're pushing it back like you would do with a compressor, and if you're using a clipper, you just cut it out and you get distortion more quickly. Even also, there's a difference, because if you're using hard clipping, for example, you're just basically turning your mix into a square wave, and that is a kind of distortion that gets nasty really, really quick. But yeah, of course, that's a pretty. It's still valid if you want to get your mixes loud, especially in rock music, which also is fine with a little bit more of a distorted sound. I mean, let's listen. Just look at the guitars. But let's talk about the organ, because this is something that was pointed out. First, I had a little bit of a hard time to find the organ in the arrangement, but then I found it, regarding leveling, I mean, it's a supportive element, and therefore you placed it quite well in the mix, but I think it could be a little bit brighter and less focused in the mids. And also, you could even go with a little bit more distortion or saturation to create some harmonics, which can make it a little bit more cutting in the mix, and also the spaciousness. Organs are usually pair quite well with modulation, like chorus, and also basically everything you would throw at a guitar, like a delay or something like that. This would be something I'd try with the organ, and also carving a bit more space in the other elements, because as it is common with electric guitars or distorted electric guitars, they are quite focused in the upper mids. Let's watch it. The side signal, we have this 2 to 4K range, which is also quite, which is always quite emphasized in distorted guitars. And also overall, I think you could carve out a bit more space, so you could also fit the vocals a little bit more quiet in the mix, and also carve some space where you can then fit the organ and its harmonics, for example. Yes, but otherwise, I really like as I said, the drums sounded pretty good for me. Also, kind of. Really 80s-ish, but not with too much reverb like it was common back then. And also something you can see in the analyzer right here from 100 to around 130 is the bass, which sticks out a little bit in this case, especially with these. It's not quite the fundamental range, but the first harmonics, which peak out a little bit around here. Might be the playing style, might be the leveling, but something you could try out. No drum samples, nice. Can actually hear it, sounds pretty organic. But something you could try with a bass, for example, use multiband compression, or distort it even a little bit more, so you get a more compressed wave shape to begin with. Of course, what always works is the typical DI and amped track separated trick, where you can use the DI track for clean low end, and then use the maybe distorted amp track for some harmonics and the actual bite of the bass. These would be some things you might try, but otherwise it's a really good production. I mean, using real drums without drum samples is not an easy task, and they sounded pretty good.
Yeah, totally.
Yes. You have something?
No, I also thought about the organ question, that it's oftentimes the case in mixes that you have elements which don't really have a specific role yet or a specific function, because it's easiest in a mix when every element has kind of its own place and its own function. So right now the organ is competing a lot with the other elements, especially the guitars, and struggles to find his own role, his own supporting role in the mix. So I thought the idea of you, Steffen, would be the same that I would have had of giving it a bit more character, and kind of carving out its space in the mix, because the guitars were over the whole spectrum right now. Just put everything a bit more in their spectral rooms, and just make it like give it a bit more tonal difference to the guitars, because when everything is happening at the same time, an organ doesn't sound that different to a guitar, even though on their own they sound pretty different just because of their spectral components. So just do what Steffen told you, and and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Let's say you just roll. I definitely struggle with the low end and kick and bass where it pertains to streaming and small speakers. Yes, and this is always a problem with small speakers and low quality stuff. I don't mean the mix. I mean speakers. I'm sorry, because and then it gets really interesting working with distortion or saturation, because you could create harmonics, and then the bass doesn't, or the low end doesn't get louder, because the small speakers can't even play them or produce them, which is just physics. You can't do much about it. But if you're using distortion and the harmonics, the perceived loudness on a speaker, or the elements could cut more on speakers. This is also if you have in rock, you often have quite a lot of click or attack in the presence and high frequencies. This is which first of all makes it more cutting in the mix, but also it is more perceivable on small speakers, and the same goes for bass distortion. I mean, you don't have to treat it like a third guitar like some modern metal genres do it, especially for this one, but a slight amount of tape saturation, for example, goes a long way for this. So let's
do the next one.
And we have another song which is called Happy, and it says that it is an interpretation of a well-known song with a little
Twist.
with a little twist actually, and that everything except for the drums was played and recorded by the person who produced this. So let's have a listen.
Because I'm happy. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool.
Feel free to write in the chat if you found the twist. Yeah,
Very
nice.
nice.
And it's quite interesting that we have two songs with a quite similar approach,
Yeah.
right back to back. And even there's also an organ in it, and this is really interesting because I feel like that you found a good separation for the organ and you found a good place for the organ in the mix, even though of course it isn't really the leading instrument. It still works due to how you carved some space in the frequency spectrum, and also how you used the modulation on it. So this works pretty well, and also really like the new interpretation of this song. It gives it quite a lot of energy compared to the more laid-back original. And it proves again, if you wrote a good song, you can arrange it however you want, and it works.
Yeah.
So, anything you want to start with?
I noted down that what I noticed along the song is that sometimes, sadly, the vocals don't seem to come quite through the rest. I'm also not an expert on this genre, but to me it feels like they can't quite come through and get a bit overwhelmed with the guitars at some point, maybe.
Yes, and this also comes down to the frequency range I pointed out in the
Yeah.
last mix. This is like the 2 to 4, 5K-ish area, which is, if you distort your guitars, you'll also see that this is a range that heavily distort your guitars. This is a range which gets quite dominant. And on the other hand, this is also where vocals are most comprehensive. I mean, just look at the Fletcher-Munson cast. This is where humans need the least amount of
Input to process.
Thank you. Exactly. And I mean, this is, therefore, it's always quite hard in rock music to find space between the vocals and the guitars. And this is also why many people scoop the mids out and use the mid range a bit more for the for vocal, for example. But you could also go the other way around and say, okay, I'll carve out more space in the guitars in the presence range from 2 to 5K, have the vocals sit a bit more there, which you actually did. I mean, actually this bump here is mostly vocals, but there's also happening a lot more in there. Like you said, we have the guitars, we also have the cymbals, we have the transients of the snare, which is also quite dominant in the mix. You said that you used Groove Agent. Or it said that Groove Agent was used for the non-Cubase users. Groove Agent is the stock drum sampler in Cubase. So, I mean, this also comes down, the samples work, but of course there would be more high quality options. They work in this mix and they do what they are supposed to do. Something I noticed with the drum sound is, for example, that the snare is quite dominant, which is also quite common in this genre. But on the other hand, the kick is sounds a little muffled. So it's a bit far in the back, and it can't really cut through through the dense arrangement. So this is like I said, you could boost the highs a little bit more and make it more cutting in this frequency range, instead of focusing on the fundamental range only. Something you could achieve with adding harmonics with distortion, of course, or using an EQ and boost what's already there. Yes.
Yeah.
You have
The drums. About the drums. I also noted down you used like a gated reverb, right, on the snare. And it's very prominent, and it's also very typical for this type of genre. But I think sometimes it at least to my ears, to my taste, it's a bit overloading, especially combined with the cymbals that also seem to feed in to the same reverb. And by that you have a lot of high end in those drums, which also results in the kick getting even less of a role
Yes.
in a drum composition. So just that high end, low end balance in those drums can be a bit more equal, because right now it's way more high end than low end.
Yeah.
But the gated reverb in general on the snare is really
Good idea.
good
Yeah.
idea for this type of sound. Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, another thing I noticed was when the solo kicked in comparison to the vocals, it really fell a little back farther in the back, and so did the arrangement basically. So therefore, you could just increase the level of the solo guitar a little bit, so they just are quite on the same level, the vocals and the solo, so they can just take over each other's role in the mix. But apart from that, yeah, a really nice twist on a pretty good song.
And the guitar riff at the end was
Yes.
was amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Also, you're I did just leave
Okay.
it right here. So
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about the loudness, because in rock, like we said, in rock there would be, you could go a bit farther, but better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
I'd say put it like that. And I guess we have time for one more.
Yeah. I think we can do
Let's see what we have here.
one last mix.
Okay. We have a song here that's called Handle with Care. Let's check that out. I always confuse these buttons.
Every life is a gift, it just can't be replaced. So handle it with care, step gently where you go. 'Cause every life means hazard, and everyone needs fear. Just avoid to lose yourself in lasting worries and sorrows. Just take courage and try, 'cause fortune favors the brave. With respect for your trepidation, fearful and lion-hearted at once. Fearful and lion-hearted at once. Life means not only humans. Please remember this. And all the life is precious. The struggle's not only yours. Prudence provides assistance, appreciating all life's beauty. Timeless and fleeting, fragile and tender. Just take courage and try, 'cause fortune favors the brave. With respect for your trepidation, just a gift. It just can't be replaced. So handle it with care. Step gently where you go.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Yes.
last one for today. Where do we start?
I think what sprung into my mind first, because it was also one of the first elements, was this whirly-ish keyboard, which to me it was a bit well. Of course, there was a phaser or some type of modulation on
Yes.
it, but it to my ears at least was maybe a bit much, because it was very fluttery.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what you can say.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. It's a nice effect and it
Yeah.
works for what it is, but I guess the more general topic of this would be hierarchy. Let's speak about that. I mean, arrangement-wise, you can see it in the waveform. We heard it. This is also a song which has clear highlights. Has a nice dynamic in the arrangement itself to it. But there are, and you incorporated really many elements which all have which is fine. I mean, you could use with layering many elements and give them different roles and get a coherent and dense mix. In this case, it was to be honest, it felt a little bit like everything was supposed to be really upfront and as audible as possible. And if everything should be audible, then unfortunately, in most cases, it results in issues with transparency and overlapping and masking, and you kind of search for a leading element in the mix, and this is something I kind of felt a little bit that this was the case here. Elements like this, that fluttery modulated synthesizer is something you could incorporate a little bit more in the background and add some nice texture to the rest of the elements. For example, you could use the acoustic guitar and the bass and electric guitars and what was in the arrangement more as a leading instrument, and then use the synthesizers more as background elements that just thicken up and add atmosphere to it. This is quite common practice in genres like that, and I mean, you could also go the other way around and say this is a synthesizer-dominated mix or arrangement and use the electric and acoustic guitar for texture, but that's basically up to you. Just make sure that you have a clear hierarchy in the mix, which is not only down to leveling, but also to EQing, because I had the feeling that yet again, many elements were fighting for space in the upper mids and the presence range, because there were some sharp resonances in the acoustic guitars. Also, I heard a little bit of a sizzle in some of the synthesizers, and if you're using them in the background specifically, you don't need that much high end.
Yeah. To me, it's a big question of hierarchy. You also wrote that you produced everything on your own, and I can speak. Well, I can only speak from my own experience. But every time I produce things myself, it's very hard to get into that hierarchy type of thinking during the mix, because you designed all those instruments and you picked them out and you kind of just want them all to be heard,
totally.
because you want to be heard and all of your decisions and everything. But you just have to pick some favorites, do some compromises, and assign roles to each instrument.
Exactly.
And maybe worst case even take some of them out, because
If
they
it
just
makes the arrangement better,
if it gives more space, if it works better, because sometimes some elements are also keeping others from coming through and don't
Yes.
really bring much to the mix. So you really have to carve out space, pick your favorites, and maybe also let others hear and say which ones they think are the most important, and maybe just try out taking things out if they sound better, if they don't sound better.
Yes.
And yeah, but I can totally understand. It happens all the time that you just want everything to be
everyone,
heard
yes.
because everything is cool.
Yeah, so
Um,
everything has an identity, and
Yeah,
is
totally. It's
something
like
you designed. I
it's like
totally get that.
your children. All of your stems are your small children. You can't just kick them out. You love them all equally, but you have to pick a favorite.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yes. So another thing which is also quite a picky topic actually is also when it comes to recording and vocal performance. It sounded. I mean, it is a sound you can go for because it is a little bit. I get a little bit of a dreamy vibe in this song, and if you go for a little bit of a not really psychedelic, but more of a laid back, dreamy, and let's just say it, imperfect vibe, that's totally fine. But to me, the vocal performance itself sounded a little bit like maybe you were restricted due to the fact that you recorded in a small flat or something, and you don't want to disturb the neighbors, and or that it comes down that you're a little bit shy doing vocal recording, which is also completely normal. And I mean, you grow with experience, and there's always, even if you're a beginner or if you're a pro, there's always room for improvement, or also room for not failure but imperfection, and that's totally fine. It just came through a little bit in this mix, and also some of the notes were not quite perfect, which also you can go for that if you say that's what you want. But using pitch correction is not a shame. I mean, everyone's doing it by these days, and it's you also always have to think you're not only doing music for yourself. And if you want to get into more commercial, you want to commercialize your music, then you have to settle down with a little bit more with what the listener want, and what is common in a specific genre, or what is expected. And if perfection is expected and you want to sell, then go with the tools that are out there. But otherwise, there's also more than enough demand for music which also has these human imperfections, and which is grateful for music like that. So I don't want to tell you what to do. I just want to point out and give some recommendations on where you could look for improvement.
Yeah, totally.
So that's
think-
basically it for today. We're
Yeah.
a little over time, and heard some really nice mixes and
Yeah.
really nice approaches, and we're always grateful for you and your participation in our Show Your Mixes. And we have another question I didn't answer before because we're just
Talking.
in the
Yeah.
talking. Brandon asked how I'd send my mix to you. It's pretty easy. You send us a mail with a WeTransfer Dropbox Drive link with your mix. You send it to showyourmix@hofa.de, and then maybe we'll get to review it in our next rendition of Show Your Mix, because we are actually at the end of this session.
Yeah.
I hope you had fun. We had.
We had a lot of fun.
Actually, really enjoyed listening to your mixes and your productions. And yes, feel free to check out our various websites. Check out our courses at HOFA-College.de. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always get in touch with us.
Yeah.
And until then, I'd say
Yeah. Goodbye.
see ya.